Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. My name is Andrew Bing. I'll be helping to facilitate this meeting. As you can see, this is a meeting to discuss redevelopment, specifically in the Kirkwood-Highwood corridor here. This is the second of 3 of these types of meetings. There will be another meeting next Wednesday. We had a meeting the previous Wednesday, last Wednesday, up in the Concord Pike area. So I'm going to be going through this and go to our first slide. So this meeting is kind of broken in. Oh, first of all, let me welcome everyone who's joined us virtually, as well as those who have joined us here. I'll be speaking to those who joined us virtually in a second, just to make sure you all can contribute to this meeting, even though you're not here in person. But I do want to talk about kind of the 3 phases of this meeting, and it really is 3 distinct phases. So the first phase will be the Newcastle County Land Use staff coming up to present information on redevelopment and implementing the NCC 2050 plan. So they'll share some slides. We'll also be hearing from the Economic Development Director as well, and hopefully providing you information that will solicit and elicit some comments from you, some feedback from you. The purpose of this meeting is for us to listen to you. So you kind of see that the first part of the meeting will lead us into the second part, which is our listening session. So as that says, that's for us and the staff to listen to any comments that you have, as well as for me to read in comments that anyone virtually is providing through the chat feature. So fair warning, we're not going to talk during that session. So we really are not looking for questions. If you choose to ask a question, that's your prerogative. We're not going to respond to that question, okay? We're really looking for your feedback. We want ideas. We want details. We want as much information as we can get about development and redevelopment in the corridor. The third part of the meeting is designed for you to ask questions. That's when the formal meeting will end. You see around the room, there are some poster sessions. And at that point, for those of you who are here in person, we will be at the boards and you can feel free to make additional comments or ask individual questions that you may have. But that middle portion is going to be designed just to be a listening session for us to listen to you. So you can see tonight's agenda. I kind of went over that. I'm going to focus you on the right side of the screen, which is who you can expect to hear from. So you're already hearing from me. Again, my name is Andrew Bing. I'm going to bring CJ Bell up in a second. He is the Economic Development Director. And then we'll be hearing from Char Padabanda, who is the Land Use General Manager. And then we have some presentations from Dawn Thompson and Matt Rogers, who are land use staff, and they'll be coming up to provide additional details again about our topic. So that's who you'll be hearing from shortly. And for those of us joining virtually, again, thank you. It's great that we are able to do a kind of a hybrid meeting like this and able to both share things in person with people who choose that method, or for people who are at home or at work or wherever you are. So if, again, you'll be hearing the same information, but if you do want to provide feedback, again, for the listening session, you just pull up the chat bar. You can see the purple caption is sort of pointing to that chat feature, and just type in your comment. And when we get there, I will read your comments into the room, and you can make sure your feedback is heard. If you're having any technical issues, we'll do our best to help you, but just raise your hand, and that will indicate to our staff who are monitoring the virtual session that you're having an issue, and we'll try to converse with you and see if we can resolve that. All of this information is being recorded. The meeting is being recorded, and it will be placed on the website. At the end of the meeting, when we get to that third part, we are going to end the virtual part of the meeting, and then that will just be for those people who joined us in person. So with that, I'm going to bring CJ Bell up, the Economic Development Director, to share some information. CJ, I'd come around this way.
Thank you. CJ Bell, Economic Development Director for the county. I just wanted to talk to you about an initiative that the administration is really pushing right now. It's called the Grow NCC Fund. So long story short, the Grow NCC Fund allows you to potentially expand your business. So we're doing loans up, starting at $250,000 up to $1 million. This will allow businesses to grow throughout the county as we're looking to expand different areas, different corridors. This is something that we really want to push. So a lot of businesses are struggling with lack of access to capital, right? So this fund, partnered with Discover Bank as well as the Grow America Fund, will allow businesses to transition from that. So I'm happy to answer questions. I don't want to talk too long. I know we got a lengthy presentation to talk about redevelopment. So if there's anything else, good to transition. All right. And I'll bring up our general manager.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to go back real quick. If anyone wants information on the Grow NCC fund, please feel free to scan the QR code or talk to CJ after the meeting. So thank you all for being here. My name is Char Patibanda, the General Manager for the Land Use Department. We are here to get your ideas, your thoughts, your concerns about redevelopment in the corridors. I myself live along Kirkwood Highway, grew up along Kirkwood Highway, and we need some help. We need to understand what it is that property owners, that tenants, that people that live around the corridor want, what they need, what types of projects they would like to see, or if they see a project that they really like, what do you like about it? What do you not like about it? All of this information and data that we collect here will help inform policy decisions going forward, because we have a pretty good idea that if we do nothing, we're not going to be in a good spot. The code is somewhat dated and it needs some updates. And so we want to make those updates in an informed way by asking the public to give us their thoughts and their concerns and ideas. Most importantly, we want ideas. If you have some interesting out of the box concepts that you've seen in other jurisdictions, please share them. We'd love to hear it. And as Andrew already mentioned, we're particularly interested in hearing for people that actually live, work, or own along the corridor, so we can get specific input, even if it's on your parcel specifically. We're happy to get that input. And so that's all I have. So I'm going to turn it over to Don Thompson, who is our Senior Comprehensive Plan Manager at the county.
All right, thank you. I'm Dawn Thompson, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about NCC 2050 and how we got here. So our NCC 2050 plan was focused on 7 primary themes: the economy and jobs, the environment, quality of life, community character, transportation and accessibility, climate change and hazard mitigation, and environmental and social justice. While the purpose of tonight's meeting is focused on redevelopment and economic development, we acknowledge that these themes are interconnected and recognize that as we address this topic, we must be aware of the opportunities and impact economic development and redevelopment can have on all of these items. So where did all of our ideas come from in NCC 2050? The public planning process began in June of 2020, and the plan was officially adopted by County Council in July of 2022. Now, despite challenges posed by the pandemic, we engaged the public in a variety of ways throughout the county, and that includes information sessions, public workshops, community meetings conducted virtually and in person when it was safe to do so, online surveys, interactive tools. We were at Blue Rocks games, and we had a very robust website which contains all of the recordings from all of our public meetings, presentation notes, and all of our public feedback was on that website. Now we are looking at in depth at how we can implement economic development and redevelopment recommendations from NCC 2050. Some of you may remember we started this journey back in January of this year with an information session focused solely on economic development. And we are here tonight to better understand next implementation steps, including potential ordinances and updates to county law and more generally county land use policies and economic development policies. So now let's take a look at what the plan says about redevelopment, specifically the priority recommendations. And these include direct development to planned growth areas with supportive infrastructure and limited outside those areas. Develop policies and programs to create an economic environment that supports a range of industries, including emerging industry. And as economic growth occurs, let's strive for equity, ensure that quality jobs and economic growth are accessible to all. Now our corridor areas. So over the next 30 years, there will likely be significant changes in the form, function, and use of the land, especially in areas with strong commercial potential, such as along major roadways in the county, such as our Corporate Highway. And as this occurs, we must look at how we can encourage and incentivize well-designed, sustainable redevelopment of our corridor areas in a manner that is sensitive to adjacent communities. So now some food for thought. Here are a few questions, among others you might have, that we can ask ourselves concerning redevelopment. So what are your greatest concerns regarding development and redevelopment? What are the greatest encumbrances to development and redevelopment? And what changes to the kind of development in the county would you like to see? So with that, I am going to ask my colleague Matthew Rogers to come up, and he's going to discuss our path forward.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Rogers, and as Dawn has mentioned, I'm going to discuss our path forward moving forward. So the comprehensive plan, Newcastle NCC 2050, looked at really 4 separate future land use designations where we expect to see development and redevelopment, the non-residential form. The first is Business Flex District, which is primarily made up of existing non-residential districts, such as your commercial, your office, and your light industrial type. The second one we looked at was what was formerly the heavy industry district, which is now manufacturing. This area with the comprehensive plan, we've extended the opportunity to downzone to office and other non-residential uses as time goes by and those heavy industrial uses become less viable, without having to change the comprehensive plan and amend it. The 2 new areas that we're looking at really within here are the community development areas, which are specifically areas of which we work with our partners over at WMAPCO, DelDOT, DART on plans that generated not only important transportation recommendations, but land use recommendations. And these 2 areas were the North Claymont area, as well as Rock 9. The other areas, as Dawn and as the general manager has mentioned, are the corridor areas. Over and over again, we mentioned that. There are 2 separate corridor types that we identify with the comprehensive plan. The first one is the type 1 commercial corridor areas. These are your 202s, your Kirkwood highways. These are areas that have currently have an existing footprint, a majority of non-residential, small-scale commercial.
I need you to, the mic is going to pick you up there.
Okay. So with that, you end up having a lot more of your small-scale commercial, office, and non-residential type uses. And in these areas, the comp plan addresses us to look at how they meld in with the adjacent communities while looking at trying to build a good streetscape that encourages multimodal transportation. Your type 2 corridors are your more business focused, your business centers, such as Churchman's Crossing, as well as the Glasgow area. And these look at really how you can address large business centers and employment centers and develop them in a manner that's sensitive to the adjacent neighborhoods and as well as the impact along the corridor. So we have a number of goals for encouraging redevelopment. The first is to expand opportunities for well-developed developments. And so this looks at site design, it looks at how layout design as well as amenities. And with that, we look towards bringing in more of the things that we had in the guiding principles, which we adopted back in 2018. And these were set to sit there and bring better design development into the county. We're also looking to better encourage redevelopment and of existing structures on low intensity commercial and office sites. So currently today, we're looking at a 50% required demolition to be considered a redevelopment plan. And so some of the areas that we look at change would be the potential to lower that threshold on lower intensity non-residential uses. We want to ensure that the development along those corridor areas are sensitive to the residential neighborhoods and the context that they're in. And with regards to this, this is also another big important area that the guiding principles can help us. We want to reduce groundwater and climate impacts. And the issues that we're looking at here is the potential to reduce impervious surface areas and provide more infiltration, reducing gate islands and other impacts that development can have. Are our parking numbers correct? Is there potential to lower the overall threshold, minimum parking stands for it? We're looking to encourage the preservation of historic resources on redevelopment sites. As I mentioned earlier, regardless of whether it's a historic or it's a gas station that was built 15 years ago, you're looking at requiring a minimum of 50% of the building has to be demolished to qualify for the benefits of redevelopment. We're looking at eliminating that right now. And the other thing is to encourage further redevelopment of extractive use in brownfield sites. And this can be done through a number of clarification of existing language in the code. We're also looking to kind of bolster some of the incentives that are in the code that haven't been utilized up to this date really much at all. And one of them would be looking at encouraging redevelopment within the type 1 corridor areas for plans that would be consistent within the guiding principles. And so it would open up redevelopment for sites potentially that may not qualify for it today. And the other is to add incentives for plans within the community development areas, i.e. Claymont, Route 9, and should in the future other areas be added into that future land use designation, opportunities for redevelopment that are consistent with the plans, the goals of those plans, as well as the guiding principles. So I've got a number of food for thought questions just to load up your plate. The first is, what sort of incentives are appropriate to encourage development? The second is, what protections should be provided for nearby communities? How can we assure that the benefits of development and redevelopment equitably reach all residents? And I'm going to throw in a quick shameless plug for a couple plans that we're working with, WMAPCO, DelDOT, and DART. We have the Kirkwood Highway study, as well as the South Claymont study. And more information will be up on the WMAPCO website. So you can follow the QR code and get up to date, see when we first have our first meetings and everything else that goes along with it. I'll be turning it back over to Andrew Bing for the listening session.
Great. So I hope you all were able to kind of, the food for thought, if you will. I mean, that was our attempt to try to get you thinking about, comments that you'd like to make, feedback, ideas, suggestions. But obviously, you're not limited to that. They're your comments. You can make, whatever you'd like. Just a couple things. Matt just mentioned the Kirkwood Highway study. Mark Tudor's here. He's the project manager for that study. So we're constantly looking for, people who have, an interest in that study. You can talk to Mark at some point after the meeting if you'd like some more information about that. That study is just getting going. So we're kind of at step 0 for that study. So it's just getting going. So we are going to move on to the listening session. I do want to let everyone know here as well as online that you can also, if you feel more comfortable with the written word instead of the spoken word, feel free, or both, to grab a comment form, or you can go and send an email to the land use department and submit any comments that you have. I don't know about you, but usually my best comments come 5 minutes after the meeting ends when I'm in the car and I go, why didn't I say that? Well, send us an email and let us know what your feedback is if you didn't get a chance to say it here. Like I said when we started, we are going to take this is that second part of the meeting. This is the listening session. What are your thoughts on redevelopment? What are your concerns? What are your ideas? Where do you see opportunities for redevelopment? If you're a community member, what type of redevelopment are you looking for? What are your concerns about redevelopment? How do you think your needs should be protected in this process? Really anything. So if anyone wants to start, feel free. I'm not seeing anything yet online from our virtual attendees. I will read those comments if we get any in. So again, if you're joining us virtually, go to the chat feature and just type in your any feedback you have or ideas, and I will read those out to everyone. So we'll give it a couple minutes here if anyone wants to share anything. If you're a developer in the room or a property owner, that's a very important interest that we want to hear from. What are some things that you have found challenging to thinking about redeveloping your property? What are some of those incentives maybe that Matt was talking about that would help facilitate that redevelopment? Really anything. This is that time. It's not often you get both the land use general manager and the economic development director in a room to listen to you. So take advantage of it. Okay. We
Well,
do,
look-
I do have one favor. The only microphone is coming through his laptop, so if you wouldn't mind just kind of coming up to the front, but talking to me, I know that's uncomfortable, but
Alright.
talk to me.
I'll speak very loud.
All right.
Um,
Do you want to introduce yourself?
my name is Tim Sheldon. I'm the county councilman for this entire area.
Okay,
One of the things is, I appreciate this, and I said this on a call, to be at Wilmaco, sorry. We still, and one of the reasons why I still want to run for office is this. We still need a lot of work done. It's being done, as you can tell on Kirkwood Highway. But I do not like the broken window syndrome, which for anybody out there is crime. Crime gets into vacant buildings. People don't want anything built. But there are vacant buildings that we have. We do have some redevelopment being done. Astor Shopping Center, where the Hooters is, we call it the Hooters area, that's going to be redone and so forth. But if we go up further, we have other areas that are strip malls. Everything's zoned commercial. I was just wondering, and I don't know if it's big enough to put manufacturing. If a developer came and said, we can put some manufacturing here, what is the process if they have to do that or want to, which I don't think so, but what would the process be on changing that?
so I don't know, and I think for this, I'm facilitating this meeting. I'm not part of the land use staff. The way, Councilman, that we are setting this up, and you may have come in after I kind of said this, so I'll repeat it for everyone. For this listening session, we're just going to take comments, and then when
Okay.
this ends, we're going to go over to the boards and people can ask questions. Obviously, we want to be responsive to what your question is, and we certainly do have a response. I'm just going to let the land use staff
That's fine.
talk to
You
you at
don't
the
even
end.
have to answer now. The other thing is what I said in the previous is traffic. If everybody can work together, because it's very crowded on Kirkwood Highway. I foresee this and hope this becomes where traffic can be relieved a little bit with the programs being done as far as redevelopment. It can look together, and actually if you go a little bit outside of Kirkwood Highway, not much, but there's a lot of developments in there. So I'd be very happy to see later on and hear from everybody what this plan is. I know it's very new. Wilmaco just started. So, with this process. So I can't wait to see this going on. It's one of the things that I really is dear to my heart. So.
Good. Well, we appreciate you being here. And again, I think what the councilman was referring to at the end about was that other plan that I was telling you about, that Kirkwood Highway Land Use and Transportation Plan that is being led by Wilmapco. So we have a couple comments that have come in online, so I'm going to read them for everyone who's joined us as well as in the room. So the first one, I'm sorry, I got to sort of look over here. Traffic control and speeds on Kirkwood Highway as the areas are redeveloped is of concern, especially with residential areas that need to come out and back into their subdivisions. So this person is concerned about traffic, especially in their subdivisions. I would encourage this person also to continue and let us know specifically which areas they're focused on that they're concerned about. Again, more specificity is always better in those comments, but we get the general sense of that comment. Another comment came through. It says, would like to see development of small town that is safe and walkable communities like Mystic, Connecticut, Cape May, New Jersey, or Stockbridge, Massachusetts. Some of these communities have free parking that encourage visitors to shop and dine. So again, we appreciate this individual sharing some of those other locations. That's always good to have examples to kind of look at. We also got a third comment. I own a house on Route 4 in Stanton in one of the shaded areas. I think they're referring to the map that was on the screen. One of the shaded areas for redevelopment. It is an extremely congested traffic area. And then they ask a question, which is, are there specific redevelopment plans? Would this fall into the 50% demolition area? So I would encourage that person to send an email to the land use staff with that specific question, and they can follow up after the meeting. And then another comment came in. This one's a little longer, so bear with me. And we do appreciate, again, these comments. This is what we're looking for. We're looking for you to share your thoughts. This is your opportunity to share whatever you'd like about redevelopment in this corridor. My biggest concern is that I know Wawa is looking at possibly putting in a Wawa where the Roselle Shopping Center is, Kirkwood Highway near 141. I'm a homeowner in North Roselle, and I do not support this. They would be tearing down at least 7 homes in my neighborhood to put this in. Our neighborhood is well-established neighborhood, and most people have been here for a very long time. It is a cohesive, wonderful place to live, and a 24-hour Super Wawa would destroy that. I feel there are several commercial spaces nearby that would be a better choice. So again, we appreciate that comment, and if you're watching or listening virtually, keep sending those in. I do want to just remind some people at the conclusion when Dawn was up here, she offered these kind of questions as food for thought. What are your greatest concerns regarding development and redevelopment? What are the greatest encumbrances to development and redevelopment? What changes would you like to see to the kind of development in the county? So again, I don't know if any of that will kind of trigger some specific comments or feedback, and I'm going to read Matt's as well. It's probably easier if I just go backwards to Matt's here. I think I already went by it. Give me 1 second. Additional food for thought that Matt shared was what sort of incentives are appropriate to encourage development? What protections should be provided for nearby communities? How can we assure that the benefits of development and redevelopment equitably reaches all residents? So we do have someone who's going to make a comment. I do want to, again, for people typing in or here, general comments are good, but the more specificity you can provide, the more detail, that's always helpful. So, sir,
how's it going?
if you could
Mike
just
Ryman.
speak as loud as you can, because the microphone's going to pick you up.
Mike Ryman with Becker Morgan. I'm a civil engineer. I'm here representing the Builders Remodelers Association as well as the American Council of Engineering Companies. I have an office here in Newark, Delaware. Just a couple things, kind of big picture. You had asked about incentives. Really, when it comes to incentivizing redevelopment, the big ticket items are cost, time, and predictability. So redevelopment can be a challenge, but if the costs are predictable and reasonable, if time is efficient, and if there's a predictable outcome, then you will have folks that are willing to invest in redevelopment. And those are some of the challenges that exist in the current code, specifically with existing nonconformities and the variance requirements that exist. So if that could be something that is looked at to lessen the burden of having to bring all of these existing nonconformities up to compliance, I think that would be a positive. As it relates to the demolition aspect of things, I think that needs to be looked at. I think it sort of discounts change of use situations. Councilman Sheldon had talked about vacant buildings, situation where it could be a vacant building, maybe it's a vacant bank and it wants to be a restaurant, and maybe they're not tearing down the building at all, maybe they're actually adding on to that building a little bit, but they're repurposing that particular use. Maybe it meets the zoning requirements already, and how would that project be treated, and could it be fast-tracked through the process? Some consideration for expedited review and an expedited permitting process so that projects that are being redeveloped can go through the process faster. Those are the kinds of things that will incentivize folks to redevelop property in the county. And I mean, I'll have some specific things that we can follow up on after the meeting, but those are the more high level things.
Okay, great.
Makes sense.
Appreciate those comments. Anyone else in the room would like to make a comment? Okay, we do have another couple comments from the chat. Concerns for the costs of getting expansion plans permitted through the county. Plans come up for review and are kicked back for minor, and that's in quotation marks, items. It then takes time and money to revise the plans. Then when up for review, it gets kicked back again for something that was on the plan during the first review. Again, more money and time to make yet another change. Another comment, from a quality of life perspective, would be great to have walkways and bikeways connecting communities without having to walk or bike along the busy roads. We live in Sylview, in the Sylview area along Route 4. And then there's one more comment. Roundabouts instead of traffic lights would slow traffic while keeping it moving. If you make the traffic flow better, businesses will be more apt to relocate. Okay, we appreciate those comments. Again, not trying to put anyone on the spot, but if anyone in the room would like to share any feedback or comments, we'd love to hear. And again, if you're listening or watching, we will take any additional comments or feedback that you have. Again, the way the remainder will work is once we're done with this listening session, we're going to end the virtual part of the meeting, and then it will turn into more of a open house type of flow with boards and staff around the room, talking to you, any individual questions that you may have. Someone, I think, responding to the in-person comment we had said, yes, expedited review would be very helpful. So I would ask that person, what does expedited review look like to you? You know, what would that look like? How would kind of changes to that review process in your mind make things work better for everyone? Because obviously there are some people who may feel, you know, it's always that, you know, the porridge is either too hot or too cold. You're trying to find that sweet spot right in the middle. You know, how do you make it an expedited review still seem fair to everyone who has an interest in that? We'd love to hear your suggestions on that. Someone just typed in, having a safer way to bike or walk from Wilmington to Newark along Route 2 and or Route 4. Okay, we appreciate that. Looks like there's another comment coming in, but it hasn't posted yet. And again, if you're listening, you've heard us mention the Kirkwood Highway Land Use and Transportation Plan. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can share your email through the chat, and we can put you in touch with the appropriate people to make sure that you're on the mailing list for that study as well. Okay, another comment. I agree with connected bike paths off the highway to encourage biking to and from. I live in Newark off 72 and would love to have a safe option to bike to work at UD. And another one, walkways, sidewalks, and bike lanes along Route 4 are needed. There are many areas where there are no shoulders and there are more pedestrians than ever in this area. So we're getting some bike and ped, which is important. We certainly want to hear that. But I also want to bring our focus back kind of to that redevelopment development area to see if there's any more specific feedback or comments before we wrap up this part of the meeting. I'm going to assume that no one else in this room is going to come up because we've given a lot of opportunity for that, but you never know. Something might trigger a comment. So I think this is a comment more in line with what I was just asking. Can we somehow make parking lots more attractive? So I assume, you know, the thinking is if we can make the parking more attractive, then that might incentivize some businesses or properties to redevelop. Okay, so I think we're going to wrap up this part of the meeting. Again, if you feel like you didn't get an opportunity or there's something further that you want to expand on, please send in a comment through the email to the Newcastle County staff. They want to hear from you. You know, you always have that opportunity to do that. We have comment forms here. So, you know, again, feel free to write your comments. So what we're going to do now, we thank everyone who joined us virtually. We're going to end the virtual meeting.